Joe, I've been wearing this Faster Pussycat Kill Kill shirt for about 3 days in a row now, and I cannot wait to talk about the movies, starting with an announcement this week that we're getting a new Wes Anderson movie this year, pretty soon, actually.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. He's working with a new DP on this one, so it might look a little different than some of his earlier all his movies, and I'm really excited to see what he's cooking up.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it'll still look like a little curio cabinet in some weird kid's bedroom.
It's going to be a different vibe, man. It's going to be a different vibe.
Well, it's called The Phoenician Scheme, and it's arriving in theaters on May 30th in limited release and then expanding wide on June 6th, which likely sets it up for a Cannes premiere in mid-May, right before the theatrical release. Details are scarce so far. We know it's co-written by frequent collaborator Roman Coppola. It stars the typical ensemble, but with a few new faces in the mix. Listen to this. Benicio del Toro,
Check.
Michael Cera,
Fun.
Bill Murray, Riz Ahmed, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Willem Dafoe, Rupert Friend, Benedict Cumberbatch, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Jeffrey Wright, Bryan Cranston, Hope Davis, and Mia Threppleton, who is Kate Winslet's daughter. You know these auteurs love their Nepo babies.
You know who I love? Charlotte Gainsbourg.
She's great.
Speaking of Nepo babies, she's my number one.
She's so good in the Todd Haynes Bob Dylan movie.
She's good in everything.
Focus Features is distributing. But, Joe, all I can think about is that title, The Phoenician Scheme.
Yeah, very Wes.
And a couple years ago, we had The French Dispatch.
Okay, where are you going with this?
Joe, is Wes Anderson entering his Robert Ludlum era with these titles? Robert Ludlum, of course, the author of The Bourne Identity and 100 other books that your dad loves, but he's perhaps best known for trademarking this particular syntax for all of his titles. They always start with the, and then a proper name, and then an abstract noun that collectively hints at some sort of
you're talking about in
mystery.
You're talking
espionage,
about in the book,
conspiracy.
Robert Ludlum, the character's books, because his books are called Inferno, Origin,
who?
Angels and Demons. Who are you talking? Oh, you're talking about Bourne Identity.
That's Dan Brown.
Oh,
get your dad authors correct. Jesus, somebody get this guy a cup of coffee.
Dan Brown.
I'm talking about Robert Ludlum. All right, so listen to
Bourne
this.
Identity.
Bourne Identity, the Aquitaine progression, the Bancroft strategy, the Prometheus deception. Those are all real titles. Every Robert Ludlum novel is titled that exact same way.
I got you.
And now Wes Anderson's doing the same thing. Phoenician Scheme, French Dispatch. And so in honor, Joe, of Wes Anderson entering his Robert Ludlum era, I came up with a fun little game to kick off this week's show, which is I retitled, before Anderson was doing this, I went back and retitled some of his classic movies as though they were Robert Ludlum novels, and I want you to guess which movie is which. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, let's kick this off. Let's kick this off. Starting with number 1, The Guggenheim Expulsion. The Guggenheim Expulsion.
Rushmore.
Yes, correct. What gave it away?
Expulsion.
Right?
Expulsion.
Guggenheim is the Brian Cox character, is the headmaster who expels Max Fisher. The Guggenheim Expulsion.
Okay, that's hard.
Rushmore.
Okay, but I got that. Okay,
that's the easiest one.
That's the easiest one.
Yeah, it gets
okay,
harder.
well, I got Expulsion.
It gets harder.
I'm whatever. I've seen these movies. I should get this. I'm no lover, or I'm not like the diehardest, but I've seen the movie, so I should be able to do it. Here we go.
You are using the correct strategy, though, which is sort of a Jeopardy strategy, which is like find a word that cues you.
Focus on the part
yes,
I understand.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Next up, the Zabraka Codicil. The Zabraka Codicil.
Zabraka's giving me a little.
Yeah, what does Zabraka say?
It's giving me like Eastern European.
Yes.
Maybe
yes,
I'll do Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, I thought you had it with Eastern European.
Oh,
you want to guess again?
No. Okay.
Eastern European?
Oh, Grand Budapest
Grand
Hotel.
Budapest Hotel is correct.
Okay.
Zabraka is the imaginary Eastern European country. And then you remember the codicil to Tilda Swinton's will, which gives Ray Fiennes that rare painting, is what launches the whole hijinks of that movie.
That's my favorite movie of his.
The Zabraka Codicil.
That's his best movie.
We'll say you're 2 for 2 so far. This one maybe is my least favorite. This sounds more like a Hardy Boys book than a Robert Ludlum book. The Cold Storage Conundrum. The Cold Storage Conundrum. This one's hard too.
Darjeeling?
No. Also, the Darjeeling Limited could also be a Robert Ludlum novel.
Cold Storage and then Conundrum.
None of these. This isn't good.
Right.
This one's not good.
It's not good.
This is not good.
Where does Cold Storage has to be evocative of some part of the film.
There is a movie early in Wes Anderson's career that climaxes.
Rocket.
Yes, Bottle Rocket is correct.
I got it when you said early. That's the only reason I got it. What does this have? I don't remember.
The big place that they try to rob at the end of the movie is a cold storage facility, as refrigeration. Refrigeration factory.
Okay.
All right. All right, next up, 2 more for you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
The Belafonte Retribution. The Belafonte Retribution. Belafonte probably is your cue here.
I don't remember. I don't know. Is it the Royal Tenenbaums?
No. Belafonte
Retribution.
What is it? It's
What's
the Life
Belafonte?
Aquatic, baby. The Belafonte
Now-
is the ship. And they are on a mission of retribution to kill that tiger shark.
I'm disappointed. I've seen
Belafonte
that movie
Retribution.
more than any of his other ones. And
No, these are hard.
I thought I would just get it.
These are hard.
I didn't get it.
All right.
Belafonte, of course.
Last but not least.
Yeah, hit me.
Last but not least.
Yeah, what is it?
This is my favorite one,
Okay.
I think. The Gastric Deception.
That's fun.
The Gastric Deception.
Fantastic Mr. Fox?
No.
Because don't they drink something in the apple cider?
You know what I wanted to use for Fantastic Mr. Fox that I didn't go with?
No.
The live action Insolvency, because it bombed at the box office.
Ah,
that was a little, I thought that was a little
that's
too
good.
inside.
The
But
it was. The
Gastric
Gastric
Deception.
I can't even remember his movies well. Like, what did we
I would
talk
use
about
your
yet?
I would use your strategy you've been using in this game
Okay,
so far.
Deception.
Choose your strategy that
Deception.
has yet to yield results,
or
but
Gastric.
might suddenly now yield
Well,
results.
now I got to think through other movies that he made. He made that one that was with Tom Hanks and Scarlett Johansson.
He did.
Asteroid City.
Not Asteroid City.
They didn't need anything
Use
about.
the same strategy you've been using
Well,
all
in
along.
Grand Budapest, they eat those cakes.
You're
but
not this strategy.
okay.
What's the one? What's the one you keep guessing? and
Oh,
what?
the Royal Tenenbaums?
Yes, correct. All right.
Wait, what?
Okay,
Wait,
so
why?
this is the hardest one,
Yeah.
but it checks out because what is Gene Hackman's big lie that sets off
I
the
don't
kind of
remember.
he lies about having stomach cancer. He
Oh.
lies about having stomach cancer, aka the
The
gastric
gastric
deception.
deception.
If Robert Ludlum was in charge of titling these movies, the gastric deception. How did you do at home? How did you do? Share your scores with us on social media at Movies Baby with 5 Ys.
I got
or
one. Can you beat me?
preferably
I
on
got
the, on
one.
the on the. No, you didn't. You got a couple.
Okay, great.
Or on the Patreon at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. But that's enough of a cold open. What do you say, Joe? Should we get started here?
Oh, yeah.
Then, Margot, please roll that fanfare.
Welcome to Movies Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, and I'm joined by my co-host Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! This week on Movies Baby, there's a new Marvel movie in theaters. That's right, we're reviewing Captain America Brave New World and evaluating the state of the MCU. We're also reviewing Paddington in Peru. Joe saw Ne Zha 2, the movie that made $1 billion in China in 2 weeks and keeps going. And of course, we've got your box office updates, your movie news, and then in the second half of the show, for Patreon subscribers only, we're picking our top 5 supporting actresses of 2024, and I'm going to tell you what I thought of the new Bridget Jones movie, Mad About the Boy, plus my official rankings of the Bridget Jones franchise, best to worst. You're not going to want to miss that. Sign up at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. You can start with a 7-day free trial, see where it goes from there, but just sign up. Sign up. Please sign up so we can buy more of these freaking Mylars. Mylar of the week this week is David Cronenberg's Videodrome, and it looks gorgeous on video, baby. Margot, Carson, show me the money. And by money, I of course mean got a bonus day, but these are the, for comparison's sake, this is the 3-day performance, and of course Captain America Brave New World overperformed and is number 1. But before we get to that, Joe, I want to say the bigger picture here that I'm seeing is that a lot of people came out to the movies this President's Day weekend relative to what we expected. I mean, look at that percentage change column. I don't see any major drop-offs. And I see a lot of green, which we rarely see. The green indicates movies that had an increase in gross revenues from the previous week. So they're actually making more money the longer they've been out per week. And the big one that jumps out right away is Hard Eyes somehow doing better in its second week than in its first week. What's going on here, Joe?
Horror movies have word of mouth that impacts their box office. I'm sure some of these other films do too, but that's why the studios keep going back to horror as sort of a safe bet. It's the same bet as always, the traditional bet: lower cost, engaged fan base bigger returns. I guess that's what we're seeing here with Hard Eyes.
Yes. I also think it's a result of, it's a Valentine's Day themed movie, as is Love Hurts, which did not see a big drop-off despite having bad reviews. These were Valentine's Day movies that got released last weekend on Super Bowl weekend. And I have to imagine a lot of people were not looking for date movies on Super Bowl weekend, but this weekend for Valentine's Day, they probably were, and these were their top two choices.
Yeah.
That also has to contribute, I think.
Not to overstate it, I wonder what the sort of down ballot effect is from larger tentpoles like a Marvel movie. I'm not saying this movie made $10 million of people that went to go see Captain America and it was sold out, so they went to see something else. But a lot of energy at the movies this weekend, and I bet some of that energy trickles down to some other pictures as well.
Absolutely, which is why it is fucking nuts that Universal didn't do a theatrical release for the new Bridget Jones movie and plopped it on Peacock. I say that's money left on the table. Do both. Have you never heard of Valentine's Day before? Some couples go out and some couples stay in. Nobody's staying in because Bridget Jones is on Peacock. Cover your bases. I don't understand it. You could have had the best of both worlds. They did an international release of Bridget Jones this past weekend, and it made $35.5 million internationally.
Then it sounds like their plan worked out.
No, because I think they also could have made something in that ballpark domestically that would not have damaged, whatever Peacock gains by having it available on streaming. I think some couples go to the movies, some stay indoors. I think you could have appealed to both. You probably could have doubled your return. I do not understand why this movie did not get, particularly when we see these Valentine's Day themed movies having a big weekend. You're telling me people looking for a date movie wouldn't have picked Bridget Jones over Hard Eyes or Love Hurts? I think they would have, at least in certain demographics. I think it's a mistake from Universal, and I'm going to talk more about Bridget Jones in the second half of the show. But let's talk about this frickin' Marvel movie, Joe. We all knew Captain America Brave New World was going to own the American box office. The only questions were by how much and what would it all mean for the future of the MCU. But it turns out those are two very different questions, because although this movie performed pretty damned well at the box office, had a big weekend, the bad reviews and the lack of any sort of tangible enthusiasm around the movie's release is making it feel like a continuation of the Marvel slump rather than a recovery from the Marvel slump. But let's start with the numbers themselves. This is the biggest U.S. domestic release of the year so far. It made $87.8 million for the 3-day weekend, and then when you add in the holiday and the international markets, it's already $192.4 million total, and that's on a $180 million budget. That's the fourth biggest President's Day weekend opening of all time, and it's the second biggest opening weekend for a Captain America movie, trailing only Civil War. That's impressive. So my question for you, Joe, is why isn't the mood more celebratory for Marvel? I assume it has something to do with the bad reviews, low cinema scores. What do you think's going on here? Is this a win? Is this a win with an asterisk? Is this a wait and see? How are you feeling about Captain America: Brave New World financially?
It's a win. A lot of win with an asterisk. Oh, it's not as good as it used to be. Honey, Disney will just manage this decline effectively all the way down to the last penny over the next 20 years, and then it'll have a resurgence, and they know exactly what they're doing with this business. Did you hear what Brett just said? They correctly budgeted the film. Kind of like Venom 3 from last year. If you make your tentpole at the appropriate price and go for $180 instead of $230, then all of a sudden we can sit here and say that did great. Now, did it get the most preposterous box office return of all time like previous entries in the Marvel franchise? No. But for the 37th sequel in the franchise and the fourth Captain America movie, if you're not counting the 7 where Captain America's randomly in them, and the TV show, that is really good. I know everybody thinks it's bad when it doesn't do endgame numbers, but $200 million, globally for this movie that got terrible reviews and is the 37th entry, that's good. That's good. Disney's not fucking sweating this. I don't know what everybody thinks. Like, I guess there's a world in which after Endgame, every Marvel movie was amazing, and the culture moves on, Brent.
Yeah.
It's not like Marvel's fault. Like, I know they had a rough go and the movies were bad. The movies were bad before they were bad. Like, the culture, have gently moved on, but not that much. I would rather own Marvel than a lot of other production companies these days.
Nobody else is opening movies over $100 million in February.
I'd rather manage, if I was worried about my pocketbook, I'd rather manage the decline of Marvel than risk trying to grow lesser studios.
Yeah,
maybe whatever. All this fucking hee-hawing, all this tears and Marvel's falling apart, it's just from like bloggers and losers. Shut up, losers.
There's also not much tentpole competition in the next couple of weeks, so it's possible that Brave New World will continue on a nice trajectory. I do want to, as the resident blogger loser, I do want to put two.
I'm so sorry. I'm just shooting from the hip. I apologize to everybody.
I love
listening.
it.
Yeah.
I do want to put two asterisks on this though, and they're both sort of like we'll wait and see asterisks. Number one is traditionally low cinema scores, bad ratings have hurt the staying power of Marvel movies, meaning how much they make in subsequent weeks after their opening weekend. So Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had a 70% drop in its second weekend, which is massive. The Marvels had a 78% drop in its second weekend. So even though this is a great start, these movies have big budgets. They need to make a shit ton of money. They need to have staying power. They need to keep making money. And the bad reviews have historically hurt these movies in subsequent weeks. There is also, I will say, there is some growing chatter online on the blogs that this budget is not correct.
Oh, right, well,
so
okay.
What they think, there is some whispers that Marvel...
That could just be totally true.
There's some whispers that Marvel... Because this movie famously had a pretty sort of tortured production process.
Right.
The Giancarlo Esposito character was apparently added in reshoots. Like
That's
the entire
very funny.
character was added in reshoots.
Okay.
There was a lot of rewrites. And apparently Marvel might have figured out some sort of accounting trick to keep the reshoots and rewrites off the production budget. So I saw estimates that this thing is like over $300 million when you add in everything, which makes the math a lot different on the return.
Well, I wish I didn't.
But
wish I did the speech. But who knows?
Well, but here's the thing, though. This is just whispers and rumors. You go to Wikipedia, it says $180 million production budget, no asterisks on it. So I don't know
but
that
I'm
for
sure there's a seed of truth in what you said, of course.
Like
any giant studio picture. But yeah.
My big takeaway is, look, not a disaster. I'm sure they're breathing a sigh of relief considering how sort of rough the production process
last
was.
week, many people,
I thought it was going to underperform.
80,
I thought it was going to underperform.
40.
Yeah.
It did the damn.
Yeah.
It did the job, and it's not as glorious as it used to be. And I think everyone's like, it's going to ruin. Now everyone's worried the movies are going to get ruined because Marvel movies don't do big numbers anymore. I don't know, man. Just like Marvel's fine. Don't worry about them.
Yeah, and they've got, what's the Suicide Squad thing they're doing? What's it called?
Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. They got Thunderbolts coming out, and they've got the Fantastic Four coming out. I think the Fantastic Four trailer is pretty strong. It has a lot of these like hot sort of virally stars in it,
Marketing people and trend people will tell you that coming out of the Super Bowl, Thunderbolts got all the right numbers and eyeballs that make them think that it's going to open appropriately, yada, yada, I don't know.
We'll see.
All I know is it's not that bad to have to be there for the last 20 years of Marvel. You'll make a pretty penny.
That's right. Now let's look at quickly at Paddington in Peru, which made $16 million for surprised by. This opened bigger than Paddington 2. And it's been out in the UK since November and has already earned $115.8 million internationally prior to this weekend's U.S. release. So it's now up to $132 million worldwide on a $90 million production budget. The reviews have been good. This franchise has a lot of brand loyalty. So based on these factors, it's projecting to keep going and make somewhere north of $200 million when all is said and done, which would put it into profit, fingers crossed, and maybe open us up for another Paddington movie, Joe.
That sounds great.
That sounds great. All right.
I love that. I love that this one did better than the second one. That's cool.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. Now, that's a very American-centric box office update because we have yet to catch up on the biggest box office story of the year, probably the millennium. I'm, of course, talking about Ne Zha 2, the Chinese film that made $1 billion in 2 weeks in China alone. That's the first time that a movie has ever made $1 billion in one market, and it has not slowed down. It's now over $1.6 billion and is currently, Joe, the 10th highest grossing movie of all time.
It's the first non-English film to be on that list, too.
Absolutely. And it should pass Inside Out 2 any day now to become the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And we're still 3 weeks into the run. This is absolutely crazy. 2 weeks. Who knows how high the ceiling is? Now, Joe, you saw Ne Zha 2. It's available in limited release right now in the U.S.
Insanely limited.
Enough of the money. What did you think of this movie? What do you think of the phenomenon of it?
Well, it's about the money kind of too.
Keep talking about the money.
But because it made
It's all about the money, baby.
It made all that money in China.
Yeah.
And so when something makes almost $2 billion in 3 weeks, you think to yourself, wow, this must really have broad appeal. So I went to go see Ne Zha 2, and you wonder sometimes, you're like, why doesn't this do really good in China, or why doesn't this do very well in America? Well, sometimes it's like, that went to China and did bad numbers? That's so interesting. Well, China's a completely and totally different country than this one, and they made a gigantic ass animated movie. But it's full of tropes and characters and things that I had no access to as an American.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of thrilling.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
I was completely submerged in an entirely different culture, and it's amazing to see giant, broad, 4-quadrant temples that are completely and totally inaccessible to you in your brain. This movie, Ne Zha 2, you don't just got to see Ne Zha 1. There's something in China called the Investiture of the Gods. It's from like the 1500s.
Okay.
And it's like 100-chapter sort of, I don't want to be rude. My understanding of it is it's like an amalgamation, like a mashup of Taoism and Buddhism and history and demons and angels and like all these.
The canonical cultural text.
But it's like combining like Mount Olympus and all of the books and some rules I made up. Like it's so many things together. And this source material has been pulled from many, many times in China. So when we talk about like, oh, Marvel has good brand recognition, Investiture of the Gods is like what you like every Chinese kid has learned about from 1500 to today, and like it's the story's been told a bajillion times in many different ways. So Ne Zha 2 is one portion of that story being told, but told on this grand scale. So when you see the movie, it's an animated movie. What happens in it? 2 demons, or one, there's like a fire demon, I guess Ne Zha, and this demon is like a nice childlike demon, and then there's like the cool blue demon, and this demon has it all together, and they go on like a kids movie journey.
Love it.
Which with tons of battles. So the movie, when you're watching it, here's like my American eyes. It's like Inside Out 2 plus Lord of the Rings plus Indiana Jones plus Hercules, like plus all this. You go to
I gotta see this
dude,
thing.
you go to heaven, you go to hell. There is more like bodies on the screen. Like it's like as if they took a picture of like a little animated guy and then they dragged him out like a billion times. You've never seen more in Infinity War or Endgame when everyone comes out of the circles.
That times
it's
100.
that, but like they do it like 100 times on one screen. So it's like a billion angels going like up against like a billion octopus monsters
That
and like
sounds amazing.
billion things. And the fight scenes are humongous and actually really cool. Something weird though, sometimes the animation is like impressing you, me, the American consumer. And then sometimes the animation looks very different from what we would sort of take as good. Like sometimes it looked way more like a YouTube AI sort of thing. And then sometimes it looked like the best animation, Pixar could ever do. It was as if different groups of people had made different portions, and I'm making that up. I have no idea how the film was put together.
That tracks because I've been looking at all just the like publicity stills and screenshots, and I've noticed that there's like different textures and styles.
It is different textures. Also, like there's one major there's cool cultural differences. The value set in all of our movies, like the end of a Pixar movie, was sort of a totally different value set at the end of Ne Zha 2. All good words, but words that don't usually happen at the end of an American movie, where it's like, be empty and truthful. I'm like, what?
That rules.
Empty and truthful.
That rules.
I think you mean angry and violent.
Right.
But it was all sort of Chinese stuff. Okay, one thing that
I think you mean self-righteous and vengeful.
Right. I think you mean paranoid and sick. I didn't. Oh, the biggest cultural difference though with Ne Zha 2 is humor. Like, whoa, we don't have the same sense of humor as people in China.
Okay, I gotta watch this.
Like 1 minute you're watching like a big action sequence, you're like, yeah, cool. I saw Lord of the Rings too. That was just like that, but like animated Chinese crazy. And then the next scene, it's like a pig's like farting in an old man's face like 3 times, like big plumes of fart.
No wonder this movie is
the
10th biggest movie of all time.
Yeah,
already.
and it was just like it's like we like potty humor. It was like the basest, crudest humor you'd ever seen in your life. That's what Ne Zha 2 was serving up. Anyway, it was really fun because it was so unlike any and we watch a lot of foreign film. It's like we watch foreign film in conversation with like the history of film. This conversation's in history with Chinese storytelling and characters and consumers.
And is it?
You know what I mean?
Is it subtitled or is it dubbed?
This was subtitled. It was in Mandarin and it had subtitles, mercifully.
All right. Well, that's good, but if you're
wanna
gunning for the top of the pyramid financially, dub this thing.
No.
I'll take my kid.
No,
dub the hell out of this thing. I'll take my kid.
You don't understand. There is no way. I'm sorry. I guess I haven't been clear. It's not
Get Chris Pratt on the line.
No. It's not culturally like different.
Get Matt Berry on the line.
It's not different in an interesting way that is like mentally understandable. It's completely and totally unavailable to this market 1,000%. There's no way any American child would ever watch this unless it was on mute and they were just like standing there looking at it. And I guess like a child can watch anything because it's color and light, but I need you to know this movie, you, the person listening to this podcast, no matter how smart and cool you are, no matter how much you like A, B, and C, you will not understand this movie unless you grew up in mainland China or your family is from there, because this is completely and totally like unable to like you're Brett, like the American mind can't get this. There's nothing, you won't get it. Like the way heaven's set up and the way that like the deities work and the way like the afterlife's constructed and the construction of I have the broadest stroke understanding of some of these things, and I was like putting it together in real time. But this movie made $2 billion in China. It won't make a dime in any other territory.
Okay,
It's specifically
that was my question.
Chinese.
That was my question. Okay.
It's specifically Chinese.
It did well in limited release.
Well,
I mean, it
you're
was
in
like
America. We got a shit ton of Chinese people here.
10,000 per screen, but also like limited release is always going to bring out the diehards.
Yeah.
You're saying there's probably not wide release potential for this in America. Okay.
This is it.
Okay.
This is it. They're going to have to be satisfied with $2 billion in China because they're only going to make 7.2 in America. Like I was in the theater with a bunch of other Chinese people, and it was very sparsely attended and it wasn't full of kids. Like I think it's like a cultural thing that some people were like, oh my God, back home, like everyone won't shut the fuck up about Ne Zha too. I'm going to go check it out at the movie theater.
Well, look, keep running this thing in China. Run it as long as they ran Home Alone here in the States. I'm not kidding. I would love if this thing dethroned Avatar. If this was the highest grossing movie of all time.
Listen to this, dude.
They can do it. They can do it. Keep running it.
They can totally do it. Do you know half of all IMAX screens are in China? 800 of them.
Yeah, this thing killed
and
IMAX.
this thing
was setting
when
IMAX records.
When I was watching it, I was like, it was just on a regular screen, and I was like, this should be an IMAX and this should be 3D, because there's so much like 3D. I guess still is a marketable thing in China because there's so much like stuff coming at your face. Listen to this. So, just some interesting things about the Chinese box office that I think this audience will appreciate. You know, there used to be a quota. Like the Chinese government, you can only release 10 foreign films was the quota in China for a long time. Only 10 foreign films allowed into the market per year. Slowly over the past, 2 decades, now we're at 34. But the new Film Bureau Administration in China, they're not even asking for quotas anymore. China is like all in. And if you've been paying attention to the world news this week, you'll know that Xi and the Chinese had like all of their business leaders, including Jack Ma, who was like ostracized very, publicly. They all had this very like
Jack Ma is like the Jeff Bezos of China.
They had this very like pro-business thing that like the CCP never does, but they're very pro. Xi is very pro-business, and this film bureau is insanely pro-business, and they are just green lighting stuff. That's why letting stuff into the country. That's why Alien Romulus did gangbusters last year in China. That type of violent content was never allowed in China, but this new film bureau opened the doors to those types of American offerings. And that's exciting for us American producers because listen to this, homies. In the NRG did a global survey. 35% of the United States is willing to go see a movie in a theater. That's like the same as UK and France and most of Europe. That's 35%. In China, 78% of consumers are willing to go see a movie in a theater.
And look, something that American audiences have been pointing out for a while is that theater prices are actually a deterrent. We have our AMC Stubbs card because we go to the movies all the time, so it doesn't. We got a good deal. But if you're someone who's just sort of taking the family to the movies once a month, it is expensive.
Yeah.
Something that someone was pointing out in the on our social media accounts was that in China, if you convert the currency, a movie ticket costs about $5 or $6. It is like a third of what it costs in America, which A means that Ne Zha 2 would have made like $4 billion in America already.
Yeah.
But B, it also
triple
could
the
be
amount of people
or
went to see
maybe
the
it
movie.
wouldn't, because you could argue that the ticket price is one of the things that
Right.
is getting people out to the theater. That it is affordable. That it's not breaking the bank. You're not spending, because a couple times that, my family, the whole family went to Paddington in Peru this weekend, and we got snacks, etc. Damn, that adds up. Holy shit,
When I
adds
have
up.
to go to like a Regal,
Yeah.
and it's like $18, it's like I'm like mad every time.
Yeah, and that's just the ticket.
I know.
I mean, we probably spent $50, $60
I'm
just
sure.
to go see Paddington in Peru.
Right.
Let's talk some movie news, because we got some good news coming out of Hollywood, Joe. Last week, Deadline reported that in 2024, the percentage of top-grossing films featuring female protagonists matched the percentage of films with male protagonists. In other words, if you look at all the top-grossing movies, the amount that had female protagonists were the same as the amount with male protagonists. That is the first time that this has happened this century when they started tracking this statistic. And it's not even like the movies were sort of trending towards this. This was a dramatic shift in 2024. Because if you look for comparison, in 2023, only 28% of the 100 top-grossing films were told from a female perspective or had a female protagonist. And that was down from 33% in 2022 and 31% in 2021. And then if you go back to like 2011, it was at 11%. It was an insane disparity. And then now in 2024, it's even. It's even, which now is this sort of catalyst, I think, that actresses and their agents and managers in Hollywood needed to really push sort of wage equality, because now the box office is reflecting that people want to see women lead movies as much as they want to see men lead movies. And there's obviously a lot of different reasons for this. I want to focus in on one specific reason, though. One trend that's getting talked about, and we have to talk about, which is that there are sort of new genres or subgenres that have become very popular that are being focused on, that are opening up new opportunities for actresses, and specifically actresses over 40, usually when the industry says, bye-bye, no thank you, we don't need you anymore. Now we are seeing those actresses get more opportunities, more roles, because we are seeing this huge explosion, Joe, of age gap relationship movies. Oh my God. Whatever you want to call them, May December movies, Mrs. Robinson movies. I saw someone on Letterboxd calling it the Cougar Cinematic Universe, which I like. Whatever you want to call it, these movies are so popular right now, and certainly have to be one of the sort of contributing factors to more movies with female protagonists doing well, because these are so popular right now. Starting in with the best movie of 2023, both of our best movies of 2023, Todd Haynes' May December could be seen as kind of the beginning of this trend, because then in 2024, last year, you of course had Baby Girl, one of the most talked about movies of the year with Nicole Kidman, and then on streaming, it was almost like those when every Christmas, when like all those Hallmark Christmas movies, there's like 20 of them. On streaming last year, you had Lonely Planet with Laura Dern and Leah Hemsworth on Netflix. You had The Idea of You on Prime with Anne Hathaway. You had A Family Affair on Netflix, also with Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. On streaming, these things were coming out like every couple months. And then the new Bridget Jones movie, Mad About the Boy, has an age gap relationship kind of as one of the main plot points. And then I saw last week that a bidding war has erupted over a new movie called Good Sex, written by Lena Dunham and starring Natalie Portman as a 40-ish couples therapist who falls into a steamy fling with a 20-something Brooklyn hipster. So these movies are popular, and they are not getting any less popular anytime soon. And of course, this isn't new. You know, we've had, you know, The Graduate, Harold and Maude, Michael Haneke's The Piano Teacher, one of the best movies of all time. But I think the difference is the frequency with which these movies are coming out. Because if anything, in the past, this was one of those genres where it was like you would get one every 5 years because it would be sort of risque and be like, okay, all right, we can't do another one of those for a couple years. The public can't take it; they can't sustain it. But now we're seeing this almost become a subgenre unto itself, and those signs of slowing down. So, Joe, what does this all mean? What's going on here? What do you think about this explosion of age gap relationship movies with the older woman, younger man, and then this equity that we're now seeing between the box office performance of female-led movies and male-led movies?
Yeah, it's like two legacies of the Me Too movement in at once. The first is women owning their sexuality and taking their power and being able to, I don't know what the right word is, celebrate, flirt with, or be in positions of power and positions of cultural, desire or whatever, to be able to act on these relationships and then to have a lot of people be interested in it. It's just very like of the moment. But it also has to do with sort of the other side of the Me Too, post-Me Too situation, which is like when, sex isn't taboo anymore. Sex is safe, and sex should be safe, and consent is important, and all those things, right? But then you lose an element of taboo, you lose an element of danger, so you lose an element of like sultriness or sexiness or fear or whatever different parts of sexuality that people sort of were missing on nibbling. So I think that the age gap relationship is such like is a very taboo. It's still a little question marky. It's a little sexy. It's because it's a little bad. So it's both. So it's women owning that they are in power now, and then they can, have these kinds of relationships. But then also, sex is boring now because it all has to be very good.
And I think you also have
to do something bad.
Those are great points. And then you have this generation of actresses who are, I mean, what a dominant generation of actresses. If you think of Natalie Portman, Nicole Kidman, Anne Hathaway, who are now, what they used to say, sort of like aging out of the industry. But you think Natalie Portman and Nicole Kidman and Anne Hathaway are going anywhere? Fuck no. They're like, give us roles.
Yeah.
And so I think this has been a way, these sort of age gap relationship movies is a very Hollywood way of being like, okay, we need something that can like sell. So all right, you're all cougars now, and we're gonna do like a cougar thing for a little while. But also like several of these movies have been amazing and have yielded incredible results. May December obviously has been my favorite. I wasn't crazy about Baby Girl, but very interesting movie that definitely deserved to get made. I'm excited to see this Lena Dunham movie with Natalie Portman. So it's this interesting thing where everybody seems to be getting what they want. It's like Hollywood's getting something they can market. Actresses over 40 are getting more roles and more opportunities, and auteur directors are getting opportunities to tell interesting stories. It's kind of this weird Venn diagram that's all seems to be working out pretty well. I'm in favor of more of these, please.
It's interesting because it's dangerous, and then there's also the line. Some of these movies are about pedophilia, and some of these movies are just about lust and desire for people that have an age gap, which is completely and totally different. Anyway, it's fraught territory, and I think that these days, thematically, things can we've either like done it to death, where it's like, okay, yeah, like cut my head off with a big knife, like who cares? Like there's a desensitization, but this is sort of taboo enough, interesting enough to be sexy.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's a very fraught territory, and it seems like so far though that these movies have been navigating it well without getting, without sort of falling into the same traps that they're trying to sort of, change course from after Me Too. I mean, if you look at like May December, obviously is about grooming. It's not like a sexy movie. It's about grooming and a teacher and a student and
that's the best movie.
Whereas it's the best.
I was just thinking about it.
Best movie of the last
that is the
5
best
years,
movie.
easy.
My God.
But then like Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. He's a hot 28-year-old.
So
it's just about like a hot guy and Bridget Jones dating, right? So I would say so far these movies have been like treading the line pretty well and getting different things out of it. You can get psychological complexity with May December, or you can just get sort of like fun, sexy, age gap relationship in Bridget Jones. You can sort of pick and choose which movie is doing which thing and how deep they're getting into the themes. But I would say overall this seems to be going well. I mean, at some point you're gonna have to come up with another type of movie to offer to Natalie Portman and Nicole Kidman. But this seems to be weirdly seems to be a good trend. I'm in favor of it. I like it.
Okay, cool. You like it? Okay.
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, like,
I think
like it's Hollywood. You
I
never
don't-
get like a perfect. You know, it's always got to
Okay.
be the commerce and the art and everything mixed together, right? So like overall for Hollywood, this is kind of a fun little trend that they've got going, right?
Sure.
Yeah. But seriously though, at some point you got to come up with another role for Nicole Kidman. Yeah.
She did like 4 of them.
All right, next up, we're going to review this week's new releases, and while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews, it's impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety, and so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, not even a little bit, we recommend that you play it safe and put us on mute and rejoin us when we move on to the next movie. Just keep an eye on the screen graphics or the episode description, and you'll know when we're doing what. Let's start with Captain America Brave New World, the biggest U.S. domestic box office release of the year so far. It's the first MCU movie of 2025 and the first Captain America movie without Chris Evans and with Anthony Mackie fully in the driver's seat. It's the 4th installment in the Captain America sub-franchise within the bigger franchise. And it's a continuation of the television miniseries The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's the 35th film in the MCU. It was directed by Julius Ona from a screenplay by Rob Edwards and the writing teams of Malcolm I don't know, there's like fucking 8 writers on this thing, yeah. In addition to Anthony Mackie, you've got Harrison Ford, Tim Blake Nelson, Giancarlo Esposito, playing a villain, like we said, that apparently was completely added in reshoots. It was not in the script, in the shooting script. Danny Ramirez, Shira Haas, they're kind of like the new, the new kids on the block, might become part of a new Avengers. Carl Lumbly, Zosha Roquemore. The DP was Kramer Morgenthau. And the movie is about Captain America investigating a conspiracy involving the president, Harrison Ford, and a big-brained villain, Tim Blake Nelson, who's using a sort of MK Ultra-style mind control program to enact revenge, blah, blah, blah. Joe, what did you think of Brave New World?
You know, going into Brave New World, it's kind of liberating to be me. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Nothing riding on
It
this.
doesn't matter to me. So I just sit down and just watch the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so like here's another great
This
thing.
is a good perspective.
Yeah.
As someone not invested in the
I don't care.
MCU, which neither of us really are, what was it like just sitting
I
down
just
watching
sat
this
down and watched
movie?
it. All right, so here's some things. Number
Yes.
1, to be liberated from the baggage of the Easter eggs is heaven. Like, whether or not an Easter egg or some sort of information was happening to me that I was supposed to understand, because I watched all that, but it wasn't like I didn't understand them. I didn't even know they were happening. And the only reason I knew that an Easter egg happened is because people in my audience would go, or like laugh, or like, I was like, oh, that must be a thing. And it was so great to have literally no fucking idea that was happening, because then I didn't have to be mad about it. So apparently this thing is full of Easter eggs, but to me, it's full of one single story that goes in a row. So that was good. And for the first hour, I could kind of dig it. I was like, okay. Next thing I liked about this movie. Number 2, Anthony Mackie's Captain America. Way better than Chris
Way
Evans'
better.
Captain America.
That's true.
Here's
Way
here's
better.
number 1 reason why. 1, Chris Evans is a fucking wet blanket. He stinks.
Come on now. How did Chris Evans ever happen?
He
Come
stinks.
on, y'all.
Number 2, this Captain America, again, don't care, don't know about lore, fucking any of that loser stuff. This Captain America punches insanely hard. Like, he like beats the shit out of people. Like, bad guys were like, stop, and then he was like, poof, and he would like, and then their face would like go into the
And he
dirt.
apparently has not taken the big serum that made
Yeah,
Captain
and he
America
did-
Captain
right.
America. This is just a guy in
He
a special
beats the
suit, in
ever-living
an Iron Man suit.
shit out of everybody in the movie, and he has a big Wakanda vibranium wings.
Yeah.
And he just beats the ever. I was like, oh my god, I don't think Captain America's supposed to like beat them up
Yeah.
that hard.
And he like slices people with his wings, like he's like in a horror movie.
you
He's like
gotta,
a
like-
slasher. He's like slashing people's bodies
like-
with his wings.
So he's like punching in the first series of punches, and I was like, okay, I guess Captain America's like really strong and mean now. You know, like Batman like doesn't kill people. Like Captain America might. Like, he punches you so hard.
I like the edge.
So I like
the
I like
edge.
that.
Get rid
And-
of that white bread,
Yeah.
Chris Evans.
I-
I like the edge.
I liked the beating up. That was violent and of interest to me. And then the third piece of the thing that I liked about the movie was Harrison Ford, not for the performance, but as the cultural curio and
Yeah.
as the screen presence. And even in a bad movie in his old age, it's like Orson Welles. It's like, there's still fucking Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it's like, Harrison Ford's humongous in front of me. And you know what? That's pretty good.
That's pretty cool. I actually felt like he I was also surprised he didn't really phone it in. Like, he was giving a
No,
performance.
he acted.
He was giving a performance
To the best of his ability.
And there was a lot of, like, when he's doing Hulk transformations later, there's a lot of... He's acting. He's not phoning it in this movie.
Okay, so those are the three things I liked, and I liked the story for a while enough because whatever. Like, I'm at the movie theater, not at work, so it was pretty good. But man, oh man, Brett, this movie wraps up with such a pace that was like breathtaking, and I was like almost laughing. I was like, "You're kidding!" This whole entire movie led up to a culmination that culminated in about 4 minutes. It was so disappointing. Not like it was gonna like be some masterpiece if it like stuck the landing, but it did the opposite of sticking the landing. This movie just pooped the landing. It was such like I was like, oh, I guess they just like ran out of money, time, and interest, and everybody just went home because that was the end of the movie. You know what I mean?
At some point, they just had to say, okay, fine. It's, all right. It's deadline time. Give us the movie. So, and they said, all right, fine, here's the movie.
Right. And so I left the theater, and I left, and the sun hit my face, and I was like, I said to myself,
it's like a Hunter S. Thompson review.
I think that's like my 4th favorite Marvel movie.
Wow! Are you serious?
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6.
Wow!
Yeah, like whatever. Like
the poorly reviewed Brave New World is Joe's what? 4th or 5th favorite Marvel movie?
Yeah, it's like my 5th favorite Marvel movie.
This.
Yeah,
I love this.
2.5 stars. It was all right.
All right.
It was all right.
All right. Joe really hates the MCU.
No,
His 4th favorite.
It was
is
all right.
2.5 stars.
It was like my 5th. Yeah,
Look,
let's go with 5th.
Joe's right. It is definitely not terrible. I don't even think it's bad. I think it has a lot of high points. There's a lot of fun moments. Anthony Mackie's great. Harrison Ford.
Thank God, because I thought I was like going
no,
crazy.
No.
It has like
and also like
it has this and that.
some real high points. Like the image of the president turning into Red Hulk and destroying half of the White House in a fit is sort of like the great visual metaphor for our age. Like, it has a couple moments where you're like, that's actually pretty good. That's like a decent little move there.
Harrison Ford is like Trump, and every once in a while I'm like, you know what, Marvel? That is like Trump.
Yeah.
You got him.
And it's so funny when he's Red Hulk and he's just like, God, like the Oval Office, just like destroying it with his fists. He can also jump so far. It's implausible.
I wanted
how far
him to be the
jump.
Red Hulk at the end for like 30 minutes.
I know. I wanted more Red Hulk.
Not 3.
I wanted more Red Hulk. I did like the abandonment of all the multiverse nonsense.
Me
that
too.
apparently was a very strategic decision by Kevin Feige and the higher ups at Marvel. That it's run its course. Because that was I think that was one of the big difficulties in getting Ant-Man Quantumania made, was like it had to like carry through all this multiverse stuff, and the movie just like is like, what the fuck, we just want to tell our story, but we got to do all this multiverse nonsense. So they said enough multiverse stuff. So you get sort of a lean, mean political espionage thriller, I guess as lean and mean as MCU can do. I would push back a little bit. I still found, as someone who was not invested in the MCU, I still thought there was a lot of lore and storylines that were kind of necessary to understand characters' motivations and backstories and things.
I guess I know you're right, but I like
you could surf.
I was
it,
happy. I was happy just to like take a deep breath and move on.
Like that one awesome shot where Captain America surfs on a missile for a second, like surfs on a Scud missile for 1 second out in the Indian Ocean where the big celestial alien island is.
You got to get on board with a lot of Marvel stuff ASAP.
You were just surfing that missile, baby. You were surfing through this movie. I felt still like a lot of recent Marvel movies, this still didn't feel like a movie to me. This all just feels like it's like another episode in this interminable TV show that's like 1/3 previously on, 1/3 next time on, and then 1/3 a kind of shoddily pieced together bad guy of the week episode. It definitely bears the scars of its very messy production process, the reshoots, the rewrites. It just feels like kind of a patchwork of different elements. Tim Blake Nelson's villain looks like a Mighty Boosh character, which is cracking me up. It's like practical effects out of nowhere in CGI world. There's just one practical effect, Halloween character walking around.
He's wearing like a Halloween costume, but then like it's so bad that sometimes he like wears a hoodie over it. You don't have to.
We didn't have time to put on the makeup today, so wear the hoodie.
Like, I get that it wasn't like a good character or like a scary or interesting plot, but like it was Tim Blake Nelson, and that stood for something in my mind. Like
That's something.
at least it was him. And then who was the other bad guy? Not Harrison Ford, but
Giancarlo Esposito.
And then, at least it was Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes.
Because there is that one part where Captain America drives down the street,
Yeah.
and then Giancarlo Esposito like jumps out from behind a bus station with a bazooka and like blows his truck up.
The most
that part was awesome.
And
that part was
could totally
awesome.
see like this all happened in reshoot.
It's so funny.
This like bottle scene, this like bottle episode scene where Giancarlo Esposito tries to take out Captain America.
He turns around and point blank shoots him with a bazooka.
Yeah.
Then he like goes with a gun like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Then he throws a grenade in the car and like blows up. And then he's like standing in the back.
And he stabs him in the like chest.
Yeah, and he like throws like a spear into it. And he's like standing there looking at the ashes like, I've got you, Captain America. And then Anthony Mackie like pops up from behind him and like pops him on the head.
Yeah, yeah.
God, that was awesome.
All
this movie's all right.
I'm vacillating between bad and all right. I'll go with Joe. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
It's really not. Like,
it's all right.
It's
all right.
You know what 2.5 stars kind of is?
Yeah.
It's bad, but I liked
it.
That's it.
You know
what I mean? It's bad, but I liked it because like
bad, but you liked
I know
it.
it's bad.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right.
I just don't think it's this like disaster. Everyone on the internet was like, "This is officially a low point." I was like, "This is the same."
Shut up.
In fact, this is better. This is my fifth
better
favorite.
because we don't have to wade through all the multiverse.
And it has
crap.
fucking Harrison Ford in it.
Come on now. I will say, as bad as the CGI has been, I thought the Red Hulk CGI was very impressive because it looks like they even did like the old school like Harrison Ford chest hair like from Blade Runner. Did you see that? They did a little bit like it looks like Harrison Ford. It looks like it has Harrison Ford little qualities to it. I liked it a lot. I thought, look,
it's bad, but
it's bad, but we enjoyed it.
But
so
it's
we're
bad.
Gonna say, you know what? It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Don't get your Marvel news from me if you care. But if you don't care and you're stuck in a movie theater that's playing Captain America: Brave New World, not the end of the world.
Now,
not the end of the world.
Let's move on to Paddington in Peru to end the first half of our show this week.
Brett,
this is
tell me.
All right, Joe, because I know you've been a little Scrooge, a little Grinch about these Paddington movies. Everyone is found so much joy in these movies, and then you love to lecture them about how these movies are for children and you need to grow up and watch some real stuff. Watch Harlan County, USA, or whatever you say to these people. I'm here to tell you, Joe, I regret to inform you that this is the first. I've seen Paddington 2, but I kind of was like watching it for Hugh Grant, and I didn't really get like a full like cinematic sort of like full watch of any. Okay. So this is the first one I sat down and watched in theaters, and I have to tell you, you are dead wrong about this franchise, Joe. Everyone else is right. This thing is just so lovely and adorable and charming.
I love it.
And look, because I too share your, I despise the infantilization of adults in our culture.
But this isn't a place. This isn't that. This isn't the
this
arena
is not that.
that.
So don't worry. This is not Pixar adults run amok. This is not
fun.
Disney adults run amok. And I want to make a distinction too. I would not even call this a children's movie. I would call this a family movie. And I think it's an important distinction because it is not doing the children's movie thing of like fart joke for the kids and then like Jay Leno monologue joke for the adults, where it's trying to like ride the two lines, and it's kind of like this thing is doing like charm and fun and this very like refined sentimentality that appeals to everyone equally and just bonds you together with the people you love while you watch it. It's kind of a great theatrical experience watching this movie. So I would say whoever your family is, whatever family means to you, those are the people you should watch this movie with because you'll all have a blast watching it. It does not feel like a children's movie though. It feels like a movie where you're all enjoying it. Like you and the kids and everybody's enjoying it for the same reason somehow. It's
lovely.
It's like it like speaks to something universal.
Okay.
It's also a movie, Joe. This is a movie for film buffs, okay? This is a movie. This is what surprised me because, for one, it is exquisitely crafted. Oh, my God. The art direction in this movie makes Wes Anderson look asymmetrical. This thing is, like, so exquisitely fucking curated and designed, but without being obnoxious because it all works together with how they're doing the scenes. Oh, my God. And the callbacks. Oh, my. They should teach a course about how Paddington in Peru doesn't waste a single beat and executes every callback like it's frickin', an Olympic gymnast on a balance beam the way this thing executes its callbacks. Not a single wasted, like, moment or line of dialogue. This is a very, like, intentionally, like, stylized movie. Like, scenes are, like, moving in and out of each other. There's no wasted lines. Every character is, like, a specific kind of archetype. Like, it is, like, crafted
Whoa.
and well crafted. I really, really enjoyed it. And then the influences, Joe. Here's what I tracked in this movie. Paddington in Peru is, count these, Indiana Jones meets Black Narcissus, the Powell and Pressburger movie, because there's this like convent in the Amazon, and like
Really?
one of the nuns is up to something.
Oh,
yes,
cool.
Meets Fitzcarraldo.
Yeah.
With Antonio Banderas as Fitzcarraldo going down the Amazon in a freaking boat, looking, on an impossible mission. Meets Buster Keaton. They literally it's very Buster Keaton-y all along, and at the very end they literally do the building falling over on Paddington, and he goes through the window.
Fun.
Amazing, right? Meets a walk down the Thames embankment, because this thing is so fucking British and charming, you're gonna fall in love with it against your will. I really enjoyed this, and on top of all that, you've got these wonderfully broad performances by some of our best actors, namely Olivia Colman and Antonio Banderas. And with all due respect to Olivia Colman, Joe, I want to say a few words about my guy Antonio Banderas, if I may.
Of course.
If I may.
Obviously.
If I may.
There's always time on this show for Antonio Banderas.
After watching his incredible performance in Baby Girl, and then following it up with this incredible, very different performance in Paddington in Peru, it made me realize that Antonio Banderas is not just one of our great screen actors, one of the great screen actors of his generation. I think that's obvious. I would go further than that, okay? Because I think Antonio is still underrated compared to some of his contemporaries. I think that Antonio Banderas deserves membership in a very select and sacred group that I would argue only includes 3 screen actors from the last 50 years, and I'm just talking about male performers for this category. There's if we added Meryl Streep, etc., this could go on forever. But for comparison's sake, I think there are only 3 people. I think Antonio Banderas is in a class of 3, Joe. And how I am distinguishing this group is that it is actors who are A, they're just fucking bona fide etched in marble movie stars. B, they can do high as well as they can do low. So they can do art house award season movies, and they can do popcorn movies. Those are the qualifications. Fucking movie star, high and low equally well, and make it all just almost feel sort of effortless.
And not just kind of movie star. You're talking like the big one, the big
fucking
earners.
top tier.
These are like
top tier movies.
Shohei Ohtani.
That's it.
Movie stars. Got it.
And there's no character actors allowed in this group. I love my character actors. There's also no Jim Carreys in this group.
Why not?
Not sort of unconventional movie stars, comedians who got into drama. None of that. I'm talking about
Jim Carrey wasn't Batman.
I'm talking about platonic ideal movie stars who can do high and low equally well and enjoy doing high and low equally well. The first 2 names on this Mount Rushmore, no surprise here. I doubt I'll get any arguments on these. Tom Cruise, Denzel Washington. Tom Cruise, Denzel Washington.
Tom Cruise. He's in Top Gun Maverick. He's Mission Impossible, but he's
in
also
Eyes Wide Shut and
Memento,
Magnolia, and he does it all phenomenally well.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Okay.
But I think Antonio Banderas is on par. If you look at the whole body of work, I think Antonio Banderas is on par with Tom Cruise and Denzel Washington in this category. Give this man his fucking flowers. Look at this. From the Almodovar movies to Desperado to Mask of Zorro, Puss in Boots, Philadelphia, Interview with the Vampire, Baby Girl, Paddington 3. We're going high, low, high, low, high, low, and he does it all fucking so well.
Yeah.
The guy is a powerhouse.
Yeah, that's a great one.
The guy's a powerhouse, and I think somehow is still slept on. I mean, if you look, the Baby Girl, he's giving us, psychological complexity. He's giving us, multi-dimensional character. And then
humor.
Paddington in Peru, he just turns that dial a little bit, and then he's broad comedic Antonio Banderas, and he's nailing it. He always knows the assignment, to use that phrase, right? Yeah. That phrase was made for Antonio Banderas. This guy always knows the assignment, and he knows how to calibrate his unique movie star vitality to fit the movie he's in and nail the role. This guy's never been bad. He's never been bad at anything.
He's never been bad.
Show me the movie that Antonio Banderas has been bad at. I defy you.
No. Doesn't exist.
What do you think? I'm limiting this group to 3.
No, what about
any other candidates for this group?
What about a Clooney? Right, he's a movie star. No one argues that.
Clooney's
no one's arguing Clooney's a movie star.
Clooney's interesting.
Now, and he was Batman, literally.
Yes.
And he was in
smaller
films like the Descendants. I'm trying to think. All the Coen Brothers movies.
His own sort of award season movies, Good Night and Good Luck, Syriana.
Okay, so he's a contender.
Clooney's interesting.
What about Clooney isn't giving you Cruise or Banderas?
Here's the weird thing with Clooney is I think the effort maybe is a little more apparent with Clooney. Like when he's like, there's like more sort of like these other three guys just seem effortless with it, and they just seem to sort of like vacillate between high and low like it's nothing. Whereas with Clooney, there's always a little bit of strategy. There's always a little bit of effort. I don't know. There's always a little bit of trying to become a character actor. I think Clooney has been this sort of like, he's like a marquee matinee movie star who wants to be a character actor. I think he seems a little maybe uncomfortable with being in this group and wants to be something.
He always has to be the coolest guy in the room, whether he's playing the loser or the
right.
cool
Whether
guy.
that's like Rat Pack cool or like indie cred cool.
And Tom Cruise is more willing to look like a fool, like in Tropic Thunder,
which you have to.
But you have to be able to go there.
Yeah.
Not that he ever looks like a fool. I'm just saying
he doesn't even know that he
there.
would.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know that he looks like a fool.
Now, what about Denzel? When's Denzel putting himself out on a limb in an indie picture, changing it up? Now, he doesn't necessarily change it up so
I would
much.
say
but like,
less,
what about
less like indie
like in
movies and more
Fences?
like award season kind of like that's his sort of high is like I mean that's how he started out was in prestige award season dramas, Glory, Cry Freedom, then Malcolm X, of course. I mean, Training Day is sort of in the middle, I guess. It's a little bit of both.
What's his big box office plays? Like Equalizer, obviously.
Equalizer, right? He does big box office
He fronts his
movies.
own Mission Impossible as Equalizer.
Yep.
He was in Gladiator 2.
Do you think maybe Denzel is not quite right for this list?
Well, like you're saying, somebody that's like the height of movie stardom, which is no Denzel, of course, is the height of movie stardom. But when it comes to like indie cred,
the guy did 3 Equalizer movies and Malcolm X. I think he's on this list.
And he did Malcolm X.
Yeah, I think he's on this list. Yeah, I think he's on this list.
He has his own action franchise.
Yes.
And he's gonna like.
He has his own Mission Impossible.
And he's gonna put all the August Wilsons like on tape.
The
like,
only difference between him and Tom Cruise and I guess also Antonio Banderas, he doesn't go like as like weird when he does high art. Yeah. He's not getting as like whatever you want to say weird or maybe experimental. Yeah. He's looking for more sort of like maybe like traditional sort of award season prestige movies. But I got no shade. I mean, it's like we can say something bad about Malcolm X. Like the guy fucking rocks.
No, I wouldn't say anything bad.
No,
about
right?
Malcolm X.
So I guess that's the only difference is he doesn't have like. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
He
doesn't have an Eyes Wide Shut. He doesn't have a Magnolia.
And Oakja.
Yeah.
You know how Gyllenhaal's always like, and now I'm a crazy guy.
Yes. No. Gyllenhaal's nowhere close to this list.
But
I love
Gyllenhaal was the Prince of Persia, and he was in Oakja, so deal with that.
But again, has the Clooney thing of a matinee idol who wants to be a character.
Now, how about Pattinson? Because Pattinson was Batman, and he's in all the cool movies.
Pattinson's Next Generation. I don't even know if the Next Generation is going to produce anyone that could be on this mountain, because the Next Generation, that generation has different priorities.
I understand.
Yeah, they have different priorities.
Banderas, Washington, and Cruise are.
That might be my Mount Rushmore.
That is an amazing list of winners.
And this is like 1980, like strictly 1980 and after. It is like after New Hollywood. We're into the blockbuster era. These are guys who I think defined what that era was all about, which is it's the ultimate one for me, one for them kind of era. But these guys turned one for me, one for them into fucking art. I'm
gonna be thinking about it all day. It's a fun list. It's a fun list.
I don't even know what to call it. The Sacred Triumvirate.
It's called the Sacred Triumvirate, and no one's allowed to go into it.
Sacred Triumvirate. It can only be 3 at a time, so you have to take one off. You have to take one off to add one.
Yeah, it's the rules.
All right, good. All right, so that's the Sacred Triumvirate as it currently stands. Tom Cruise, Denzel Washington, and Antonio Banderas. We should definitely do this for actresses as well. I'm gonna put my thinking cap on for that.
Charlize
a very different. I mean, as we've said though, with like
Nicole Kidman.
The scarcity of roles, because a lot of this depends on what roles you sort of age into.
Sandra Bullock. We'll get there. Come on. Think about it.
It's a different equation, though, because of the way Hollywood is set up, or has been set up historically. We'll talk about it. This is a very interesting conversation. But let's bring part 1 to a close here by looking towards next week, because next week, oh boy, here we go, Joe.
What do we got?
I have
what do we got?
Not fucking GoldenEye, the best Bond movie of the Pierce Brosnan era.
Really?
Martin Campbell, know that name because he directed the best Bond movies of two very different iterations of the Bond franchise, GoldenEye and Casino Royale. I cannot wait to see his new action movie Cleaner, which sounds like Die Hard if John McClane was a window cleaner, is sort of the premise of it. I'm hopeful for both of these. I really want to see the Cleaner, though.
I want to see Cleaner. I might see Cleaner twice instead of seeing Monkey once.
Oh, God, how do I avoid? I got to go deep in the valley to see the Monkey. I cannot see the Monkey with an AMC Burbank crowd.
I'm seeing it tonight at the Vista with that crowd. Early screening film crowd.
Vista's a little different. Vista will be fun.
I hope so.
Vista will be fun. I cannot do AMC Burbank crowd for this though. I'm going to Porter Ranch AMC 8 for this one.
You want silence.
Yeah. I want like two teenagers making out, three people asleep, and a family that walked into the wrong movie. All right, all that and more next week. But first, in the second half of this week's episode, we're going to count down our top 5 supporting actresses of 2024. We've been doing this in the lead up to the Oscars. We've been telling you who should really be getting recognition for their 2024 performances, and today we're doing supporting actresses. I'm also going to tell you what I thought of the new Bridget Jones movie, Mad About the Boy, and I'm going to give you my best to worst rankings of the Bridget Jones franchise. You do not want to miss any of that. Trust me. If you love the movies, the second half, it's just as fun as the first half, Joe.
Yeah.
And you can only watch it on Patreon, patreon.com/. Staying and sticking around and talking with us over there.
Let's talk supporting
and
actresses.
talking with
I'm
some
excited.
other people over there. All right,
I'm sure my list is correct. I
got to look at Joe's list, and it's pretty damn good.
I guarantee
I'm jealous of Joe's list. We'll see you there in about 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Well, go to the Patreon if you're not there already. Bye.
Bye.